Carla. I'm a former graduate recruiter and graduate development manager, now working for the engineering careers team. And I'm here as part of Preparing for Work, a project that aims to bridge the gap between university and the workplace. And as part of this project, I'm interviewing lots of alumni and people who've been in your shoes and who know what it's like, not only just to track them down and figure out what they're doing now, but also through their stories to bring to life some of the themes of Preparing for Work. By the way, Preparing for Work is available on the engineering the engineering YouTube channel, and you can download any of the episodes or watch them freely. I'm really, really pleased to introduce Amah, who was with us until 2021. I'll let you introduce yourself, Amah, if that's okay.
Yes, of course. So hi everyone, my name's Amah, and I studied civil engineering at UCL. I did a 4-year integrated master's course, and I graduated in 2021. So yeah, a recent graduate. And I then got an internship for a company called Buildots, working as a customer success manager. So I've been doing that. I had my 1-year mark very much this week. So yeah, just 1 year at Buildots now. So it's been going well.
Well, congratulations. I didn't know that. That's fantastic. Well done. And it's really nice to hear that an internship, I mean, definitely all our interns listening in today will be very interested to hear that an internship turned into an actual graduate offer. So well done you, and congratulations on your finishing your kind of year. So if somebody receives a job offer, I wondered what your advice would be, between the job offer and starting work.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think it's a mixture of things. You could approach it where you just want to prepare on the work itself. But the way I see it is you also just need to prepare your mind and just your general self rather than actual work-related things. So when you finish university, it's a big thing, and you've worked really hard to get to the position, into your next position or into a role. And because of that, I feel like sometimes we don't take care of ourselves and give ourselves enough time to essentially take a break. So I think it's important to make sure you take a break, make sure you spend time with people you care about, and spend time, because when you start work, these are things that you don't realize that reduces a little bit because of the amount of time you might have. So I would do that. And in relation to actual work, I would just understand a little bit more about the industry so that you're in, because once you're in there, you realize that there so many different connections and different things that you could different connections that you could build, and essentially you need to understand the actual landscape of the industry so you can know essentially where you fit within that, because when you're at university, it's very much, you think it's like one path once you get into the job and that's it, but there's so many things within that and so many places you can take it. So I think that's always a good thing to do before you start.
Thank you so much. That's such a good answer. Thank you. Yeah. I've been talking about it for a long time. And what was the strategy or the tool that you used that basically changed the way that you work?
Right. So coming to work, I'm quite an organized person, but there's a difference between being organized at university when you have set deadlines compared to having working where you have essentially constant and ongoing tasks that you need to keep on top of, like on a daily basis. So for me, I use a tool called Notion, and I just essentially, it's really good and it helps me organize myself. A good tip that my line manager told me is to essentially break down your main tasks into kind of smaller tasks, which are like easy to complete. So it means that you can do something that's small quickly. And if you essentially do, like, say 5 tasks in a day, if you break it down into kind of like, I guess, like easy parts or like smaller parts, it means that you don't feel as overwhelmed when you're about to start that task. And it also means that you can keep a track on exactly how much you have left and what else you need to do. So it's always good that has always helped me kind of starting.
Oh, that's amazing. What was the, was it Notion you
And
called it?
Notion, yeah.
Notion, interesting. Thank you so much. I've never heard of it, so I'm writing it down. Thank you so much. And what would you say is, thinking about learning and that sort of process, what do you say would be the biggest lesson that you've learned in your career thus far, obviously?
Yeah, it's a very hard question to answer. Obviously, it's coming into a job, everything is new, so there's a lot of lessons to take from it. But I think the biggest lessons I've learned was that I didn't need to be as afraid or as kind of nervous coming into it as I thought. In terms of the transition between university and work is, I think, what everyone thinks about it, because it is a scary time. But when you actually go into it, there are a lot of people there that actually are there to support you. And yep. I've learned that, and they're just people, right? So, and everyone wants to do well, and everyone wants you to do well. So just remember that. Yeah.
What a lovely piece of advice. That's so nice. And if you are, because I mean, graduates, certainly in my time, I spent 15 years looking after a graduate population, the early talent. So people like industrial placements and internships and things like that. So if you are an intern, or you are an industrial placement student, or you are indeed a graduate and you're struggling at work, what advice would you give them?
I think it's I guess similar to what I said in my last response. It's very much, it's very hard, I feel like, sometimes to ask for help if you are struggling, because especially with a new job, because you want to show that you essentially are up to the task, and that they can trust you, and that they can give you all these responsibilities. And sometimes I feel like new graduates might, in that position, put a lot on themselves and suffer in silence. But it's the biggest thing to remember is that it doesn't benefit anyone, essentially, for you to be overworked. It doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit your work. So the best thing to do is to speak to them. I think, even if it's not to necessarily a line manager or anything like that, it's find someone that you trust while you're at work, even if it's a friend, and they might be able to they will probably help make you feel better. And again, I think when it comes to if you are really struggling, you should really speak to your line manager as well, just because you are allowed to take breaks, and you are allowed to have a day where you know that you can't necessarily go through it. Then speak about that, because you might be able to, and you should be able to take a break for yourself. So, because that's, at the end of the day, that's going to help you be more proactive in the long term.
I think I've noticed in my sort of time with graduates especially, that I think you're right, they do take a lot upon themselves, and they do feel that they have to perform in the job, which they do, obviously. But we kind of, as graduate development managers, and also as line managers, we expect graduates to have a little bit of wiggle room to make mistakes. It's okay. And that's how you learn, don't you? So yeah, I think I would echo what you say as well. Just please pipe up and say something, because also line managers aren't mind readers.
Exactly.
And they're not going to know if you're struggling necessarily. So no, I love your advice. Thank you so much. That makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of the time as well. Oh, sorry. A lot of the time as well, they've already been in that position, so they know exactly what you're going through, and just a matter of them knowing, and you telling them. So yeah,
I agree. And what do you think if somebody were to make a mistake, and it could be something really small? And most of the time, in all honesty, most of the time I found that it really is small in comparison. Like, I'm not just talking a typo, but actually, just something that perhaps has been blown out of proportion because they've not been in a situation like this before, where they aren't necessarily completely in charge of their work, like you are at university. You've got your deadlines, in charge of your work, but then you've got all these stakeholders and suddenly responsible for them and the work that you need to do for them. So what would you say if somebody feels that they've made a mistake?
Obviously making a mistake is tough, and it's obviously something that you wouldn't want to do in an ideal world, but again, mistakes happen. And the way I look at it is, it's better to speak to someone like as soon as possible. Speak to someone, even if in your team, or just at least try and get some advice on it as soon as you can, because especially because firstly, the quicker that you do speak about it, the more you can mitigate any issues that might arise from it. And additionally, it means that if the problem is something that requires a lot of work to be done on it, it means that you will have some help, and people that are more experienced than you will most likely have seen this happen, over the course of their career, so they know exactly how to handle it. So again, they're more equipped, and they'd rather you say something than not. I guess I'll just leave it there on that.
I totally agree with you, Emma. I think, to cover up or to really struggle or to worry incessantly about it, I've seen people really lose sleep over things like this, and there really isn't any point. Nobody expects, the perfection ever, really. So there's really no need to get this, worked up about it or to lose perspective. So thank you so much for clarifying. I think that's really nice to hear that actually from somebody who's, fairly new. And so I'm sort of thinking about kind of more industry-based questions. So I'm thinking about, you're in quite an unusual kind of industry, I guess. So perhaps you could talk about that, and also, the direction in which you think your industry will go in.
Okay, good. So I work in construction tech. So as I mentioned, I did civil engineering at UCL, and from there, I became interested in, I guess, the tech side of things from doing programming module in my optional module, an optional programming module, sorry, in my third year and in my second year. And I became interested in, I guess, using technology to kind of improve the processes we have now. Because essentially the construction industry is one of the least technologically advanced industries in the world. I think it's only second behind agriculture. So for an engineering discipline, it's nowhere near good enough, in my opinion. And we're not really utilizing what's available. So when I found BuildArts through my internship, I realized that, this is what they're doing could be really, really good for the industry. And we're at the moment one of the leaders in that. So it's really nice to be working in a space where I feel like I'm essentially innovating and trying to help improve the industry. So I think in terms of where this industry will go, we can see it over the course of over the past, say, like 5 to 10 years. If you know a little bit more about the industry, you can know that there's something called BIM, which is like building information modeling. And essentially with BIM, for within construction, there are now requirements to have, certain there's certain BIM standards that you have to comply to. And now that this is quite a recent thing, so now a lot more companies have to essentially, be in line with these guidelines. And it means for us, like the people that work in the construction tech industry, we have more tools available to us from these companies to kind of do what we need to do and help improve. So I think people are starting to adopt the technology a lot more, and it's not going anywhere because we need to be more efficient in constructing. We need to be more efficient in essentially doing handling our documentation, planning, getting materials. So construction tech can be implemented in all the stages of essentially the process of the design life cycle. And it will just help the industry because obviously you know what profits are like. It's hard because so it's going to help improve profits, and it's just really, really good. And I'm excited to see where it's going to go. I think it's really new, and that means, again, it can be scary, but again, that also means there's a lot of opportunity out there. So I think I really look forward to it.
It's really interesting that although you're working for an innovator, essentially, it's actually quite a small company, isn't it, Amah?
Yeah, so I think at the moment we currently have around 200 employees Yeah, when I joined, there were about 75 people last summer. So we have expanded and grown. But yeah, it's been a great journey so far.
And that's just all an indicator as well of how fast the industry is moving to sort of, have so much growth in such a short amount of time. Is I mean, maybe typical of a smaller SME, but it's definitely obviously growing, and there's a demand for it. So good for, And so if somebody wanted to move into your line of work, what would your advice be for them?
Yeah, well, before I joined, I didn't know much about the industry at all, and that's why I also gave that suggestion at the start about it. There are a lot of companies out there that will that there are opportunities out there in a lot of different companies. I think the main thing to do is to know what side of the industry do you want to be in, like what type of solution do you want to provide? Because, for example, there are construction tech companies where you do you make 3D modeled houses, for example, like, and you use you do things like that. Or there are things where you use external captures and where you use drones, or it can apply to different sides. I mentioned different parts of the life cycle. So it's essentially what solution, because anything within and when you're an engineer, you want to provide a solution to something. So it's like, what are you trying to solve, and what do you care about to solve? And for me, it was essentially trying to make the construction process more efficient and help with actual building of projects. But for you, it might be different. So again, understand what you want, and then from there you'll be able to find something that fits that.
So talking about what you want, I was going to ask you an extra question if it was okay. So because the thing is, you've gone into an internship before you started this job.
Yeah.
What do you think the benefits are of going into an internship or looking for an internship?
Yeah, I think internships are great because it gives you an understanding. It gives you a really good understanding of like work life. Firstly, it's having just the work-life balance that you're not necessarily exposed to at university, or you have to be exposed to it. There's not, like, university is not necessarily a rigid timetable, but with work you have to get used to that, and you have to get used to not having months for a deadline, for example. So and I think with an internship, it's a good way to understand whether you fit the job, or whether the company suits you as well. It goes both ways, because again, you want to be in a place that makes you happy, and a place where you think that you can succeed and reach your full potential. So going to an internship is a good way to understand that and get an understanding of essentially what's going on, and to know whether you're in the right place for you, and whether you need to either think about something else, or think about doing that same thing in a different place. So it's good. I would recommend.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And it's obviously worked out for you as well. It's been a nice line into a graduate offer. So well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It's so lovely talking to you. I could talk to you forever, but I know you've got to go off to work as well, and I've got to make sure that I carry on asking lots of questions of alumni for our students too. But I just wanted to thank you for your time, because everything you said is on point, and I really appreciate our alumni coming back and talking to our students as well. So if you have any questions to our students, if you have any questions, please do reach out to your careers consultants. You book an appointment with them. Don't forget, you can access the episodes of Preparing for Work already on the Engineering Careers channel, and reach out to us when you need us. Again, Amah, thank you so much for your time today. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you for having me.